Okay, we talked about how to find the service and that you have to have the genomes annotated in BV-BRC. So how do you add these genomes to it? Well, there are two ways you can add them. You can do the genomes individually, or you can select them as a genome group. Now, they can be private genomes or they can be public genomes. It really doesn't matter. So I could start typing something like Brucella, and it will open up a drop-down box, and you'll notice that what it has first are names of genomes, and it's followed by this lock sign. This lock sign indicates my private genomes, and I have a lot. And there are a lot of choices here. So, geez, how do I narrow it down? If I know what I wanted right away, I could do that. But let's say that I don't. So one thing you can do is click on this filter here, and then you can narrow the search. So I could filter on public data. And let's say I want either the reference or representative genomes. You could also do your own genomes or the type of data. So let me go back to Brucella, and remember that it's filtered on the representative or reference genomes. And so I like 16M. That was the first Brucella that was sequenced, and it's a complete genome. I like that too. So let's click on that, and I can add that to it. Now, if I happen to know the genome ID number, which is what you see right here, this is the genome ID, I could put that in there, and that's a unique identifier. The genome ID number brings you to an exact genome. If I were to enter Brucella melitensis, there'd be a number of things I could choose from, but each one of them would have this unique identifier. So we already have that. We don't want that one. And notice that this is going to be the reference genome. So when it's clicked on, you click on the add button, and it comes down here and it says reference genome, which is what we want. This is what we're going to compare everything to. And then let's say we want a different Brucella genome to compare to it. So we have these choices, and let's just right now go with some things that we know are good quality. The reference and representative genomes were established by GenBank as higher quality genomes that are supposed to scan the breadth of the particular genus or taxon level in question. So I like Brucella suis. That's not a bad genome. I can add that in. And I could also add, I like the abortus genomes too. These are generally isolates of cattle. And so I bring those in. So you notice I've got 3 genomes here. And here there are 3 unique identifiers. Let's say you don't necessarily have to add them one at a time. You could create a genome group. And if you can remember the name of the group, that's great. If not, you could click here and see the genomes that you have created groups for earlier. So you could scroll down and put that name in there, or you could go to your workspace. And this is my workspace, and it's looking through my workspace to try to see where they are. So I can click on it a couple of times and I could find something that way. Or I could start writing in here if I know the name. And you see, it's pretty smart. I didn't have to do too much typing before it figured out what I was after. So if you name things uniquely, it's easier to find them. So if you want to add a genome group, you can do that, and then click the add button. And oh my, look, these are the same things. What do I do once I'm at this situation? I don't want to run this job with these guys being repeated. Here, you can get rid of any individual genome that you don't want by clicking on the X. Okay, so once we have that, these are the ones we want. So now let's go down to the parameters. We need an output folder for this. So if you click on this down arrow, it'll show you the folders that you have created most recently. And from the one of the most recent to further out. Or if you can remember what folders you've had before, you could do that. But let's say you want to do something totally unique and create a new folder. So I'm going to click on this folder icon here. And that's going to open up a dialog with my workspace in BV-BRC. Remember, to use any of the services in BV-BRC, you have to be registered. They're free to everyone, but we make you register so that you get a free workspace where you can store your data. So I can create a folder, and maybe I'll call it Brucella Alignment. I'll create that folder, and I have a ton of folders. Now what do? How do I find it when I have this sea of folders? You notice that it's alphabetical. Each of these column heads is sortable. So I can click on Created, and I can see the earliest folders that I've created, and I can see the most recent. And then I click on that, that row turns blue. I click on OK, and the name of the folder is there. Now it needs a name. So every job needs a name. So I'll call it Brucella melitensis suis abortus, original, right? But I try to name things so that I can see what they are, because if you look down here, these are the number of jobs I have, and sometimes it's hard to find these things, so I give it a name. Now notice at this point, the submit button is blue. So I could go in and submit the job at this point. If I wanted to do something different, I could enter into the advanced parameters. And that's going to show me the seed weight and the LCB score. So if you open this, which you're clicking here, you can see what the default is. The seed weight is going to determine the conserved block of data that it's looking at. And so it automatically determines based on, generally the default is 15 and the LCB score is 3 times that. If you go lower, like 9, I generally don't have very good results with, and I'll show you some examples of that. And if you go higher, then it's getting more fine grained. So you're going to see more and more little blocks here. But if you're looking for a nice, even, and I suggest you always start with the default, just leave it at the default levels and you hit submit. Now, once you submit the job, it says it's submitting it. Don't go away until you get this message that it has been submitted. Check your jobs list to check the status. And so in the next video, you'll get to see what those results look like. Thanks a lot.